Welcome to Simply Sarah. I'm Sarah Stock. I'm your host, and we are just so grateful that you are here. We're also grateful for Danny Koch for writing that introduction music for us, also the outro music. We are thankful for LomanoArt.com for their support and also the Stegner families. I'm also so pleased today to introduce you to Mac. It's what all of us call him is Mac. And yes, he has a longer name than that. But if you've spent even 2 minutes around him, his name becomes Mac. And that's how we know you and love you. Mac, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a real pleasure to be here, Sarah.
It is so good to have this opportunity for you to share how you got to this place in your life. We met through Achieve and just so excited about what's taking place in that group. But you have a story that goes even before that and would love for you to share your journey, how you got to where you are today.
Well, being the old guy in the room, and that I'm in my early 70s, uh, I reflect on life a lot. And that, we can all look at how we started out as a child and why is there air. But for me, I look back on the struggles that growing up did. I was raised without a dad, and that my mom was the rock in my life. And she literally locked the door when I wouldn't stand up for myself one time when I was a kid. The bullies in the neighborhood were picking on me, and um, we have to learn that we're going to get, as I refer to it, hit upside the head with life.
Mhm.
But we have to get back up and we have to continue on. And a lot of that was just a learning process,
Yeah.
but now I reflect on it and I want to try to help people understand it's okay to get knocked down. But there's people out there that are honest and sincere and they want to help you succeed. So that's what I choose to do.
Mm. When you finished high school, what did you then venture into?
I went into the Marine Corps, and that my eighth grade term paper was being in the Marine Corps. Um, and it was during Vietnam, which was a very tumultuous time. The only fight I had with my best friend from high school was over the Vietnam War.
Mm.
Um, but that's part of the growth process too. Is how do we look at what we believe in, but
Mhm.
also how do we rationalize it as we go through life? And did we make the right choices? As I've come to say, there were a lot better Marines than me, but the Marine Corps was kind of like kindergarten to life. It
Yes.
taught me everything else that was to come. And I mean, from the easy things of making your bed to standing up and pursuing forward.
Mhm. My dad was an ROTC and at University of Tennessee, and he could make his bed like nobody else. I mean, and then also when he would shine his shoes for Sunday, and they were always shined for Sunday, they were spit shined. He had learned well. There were definitely lessons in there about things that you just carry into life and that you do well because you've been trained well. What were some of the experiences that you had in the Marine Corps that translated into later on you being self employed for more than 50 years? There had to have been some things that you learned in the military that helped support what you would later go on to do and be so successful with.
I think a big part of it was the strength my mom taught me, and that um, when I looked at it, it was like I had a real tough time dealing with the goofballs that up in our life, and they may have been older, or they may have been a higher rank, but I fought that a lot. But that was one of the two by fours upside of my head. I had to understand that there's always going to be people in a position of authority over you,
Mhm.
you have to learn how to deal with them.
Yes. What have been some of the ways that you have learned to deal with? I know that the middle school me just wanted to walk down a different hallway, right? To not engage, to not confront, just to try to go the long way to my locker to hopefully not have anything bad happen, whatever that happened to have been. And although it's a strategy, I'm not necessarily saying it's a great strategy. What were some of the ways that you learned that worked well for you as you noticed that there were people who you didn't always agree with who were in authority, and yet there was that space of respect because they held the title?
Well, there's always a lot of things. I guess some people would look at me and hear my story and say, "Well, you've always been an extrovert," and that um, my mom moved us from Cleveland to Phoenix in 66, and I was at going into the eighth grade, and they were going to elect class officers. I
Ah,
was there for 2 weeks. I made a big yellow and black sign that said "Vote for Frank," and everybody said, "Who the heck is this guy?" and that, but that's how I've been. I'm kind of known as the guy that shows up. Um, Driving's not a big deal. If I have to drive 150 miles for an hour long meeting, I'll do it, and that
yes.
weather dependent. Um, I've always been comfortable with people, and
Mm,
that um, you know, it tied into the Marine Corps that way. Afterwards, you know, going out into the career world, um, I was a starving young father in the late 70s. Uh, and a friend of mine was a photographer. And at that time, photographic business cards were all the rage.
mm,
And so I was going to sell him, he was going to do the photography. We went to a store and talked to him. They convinced me to go to work for
mm,
him. 3 months later, Rod, the photographer's dad, died, and
mm.
he moved back to Kansas. I went to the GM, said, I know nothing about photography, but I'll make you money. And that was like the best deal that I had in my entire career because we split the profit 50-50.
Wow.
And that, but he wouldn't let me work under his store name. I had to work under my company name.
Mm,
And about 3 years later, he came to me and says, Mac, you're making more money than I am. I had to start taking some accounts as house accounts. A month later, I got approached to be a rep. I moved to New Mexico and started my repping business. So it's funny how life turns out. You just have to kind of go with the flow.
When you were given these opportunities, was it real clear for you that this was the right next step, or was there some ambiguity and kind of figure it out as you go along?
When it started, it was out of necessity.
Mm,
I needed more. And that I had a wife, I had a daughter, uh, and you have to provide. Not having the guidance of a man. I mean, the men in my life became Boy Scout leaders and coaches.
mhm.
But that's still, you know, temporary. It's not every day, get up and clean the kitchen type stuff.
Right.
Um, so I had to learn that. I my mom when we're still living in Ohio, I was 5 years old. She'd make me go in. At that time, you would actually pay your utility bills
Yes.
directly at the location,
Right.
and she would send me in with the money and
Mhm.
taught me how to count out what the bill was and how to count change. And it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but I look back at it. At 5, I was doing that.
Yes.
I was in 5th grade, and a much older guy, my sister's 2 years younger than me, a guy that she was in second grade. He was in sixth, was beating her up. And I stood up for her. I was in the middle there. Well, he went home because he got bruised a little bit, and he blamed my mom instead of me. And his dad came to the house screaming at my mother. And I happened to be in the room. I said, Mr. Monteleone, um, it wasn't my mom. It was me. He was beating up my little sister. And, uh, and again, just a little thing, but such a major thing in how I've run my life or how I lived my life ever
Yes.
since.
I really appreciate that you stood up and said it was me, rather than allowing somebody else to um, disparage someone else. Right? I mean, that you said this is where this is going to, no matter what happens next in this conversation, this is the person who actually did the actions. And that plays so well also into this space of when you are doing sales, to make sure that all of the information is accurate. Who you are talking to is the right person, that you are developing the relationship in such a way that trust is built from the beginning, and then that it's continued to be groomed and encouraged, and makes such a difference in terms of what comes out of that particular relationship. It may be a lot in sales, it may be a referral to somebody else, but it becomes this positive link in the chain moving forward. And you learn that at such a young age. You've also spoken that that your aunt, your mom's sister, was your second mom. How did that come about?
Uh, my grandmother lived with us from the time my dad left, and uh, my mom and my aunt were both divorced. Neither one of them remarried. And as I was going into the ninth grade, my aunt moved in. My grandmother actually went to one of her other daughter's house that had younger kids, and it was weird. Yes, it was my aunt, but it was still weird. And I was an angry kid, and then not having a father around and stuff. And now there's a another adult coming in and telling me what to do. I was a little bit belligerent going into the ninth grade, but they tied all their fun because both of them had contributed to the house payment and all the stuff. She became like my second parent, and she passed away this past Christmas, and she always dealt with asthma and COPD, and that, but they had tied everything into each other. And that after my sister and I left, uh, for me it was 18. My sister was about 19 when she left the house,
Mhm.
but mom passed away in 2019, and you know, uh, Aunt Kathy was always still there. She was the one that I could pick up the phone and say, "You'll never believe what I just did."
Right. Right. Someone to celebrate life's great things with that maybe no one else would appreciate to this same extent, right?
Exactly.
Yes. Oh, so good. So you get into the photography business, you begin doing sales. You are right. You are willing to drive 150 miles for a conversation, to be face to face with people. I think that's another trick, another tool. It's not a trick, it's a tool, another way of connecting in with people, rather than using the phone back in the day or doing it other ways. When you were doing that, what were some of the things that you were doing as you were doing all of these hours of driving in the car?
Well, it's the world of technology that I've lived through. My grandmother used to talk about, cars becoming popular.
Right.
For me, it was the cell phone in a suitcase that sat on the seat next to me, and I thought I was so cool. I had a phone. I was kind of like James Gardner and Cash McCool.
Yes, I can see it.
But I got the first bill, and it was $600, and I said,
Oh,
"Holy gosh, what did I do?" and
right.
but you learn, instead of just talking, and that you learn. Hello, I got this done. Here's an order. Blah blah blah. Let's go. Fax machines were part of that. Computers were part of that. My own email address was part of that. AOL was real big when I
Huge.
got started.
Mhm.
This thing called chat rooms was happening,
Yes.
and I worked for a company called Mamiya America. It's a professional camera, and I started talking about my products, and then I started running the chat room on AOL for my products, and
Mm.
that I had to talk to the owner of the company. He says, "Why would you want to do that?" I said, "I don't know, Henry. It seems like a good thing."
Right.
But we go through these things, and the reality for young people now, and I think the younger generation is more in tune to the technology. They're more willing to embrace it, but there's still so many things, AI, CRMs, and that it's going to change the next 20 or 30 years. Those
Yes.
of us in my generation aren't even going to understand. My grandmother would never understand you and I doing a
Yes.
conversation like George Jetson.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I would love for you to share about how you help military veterans, first responders, and the like transition from the space of being a civil servant and moving into a place of having their own business. We will be right back after this.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I am the founder and owner of Lamano Art. I began this business over 20 years ago. I specialize in paintings of all kinds. I make murals, portraits, and live paintings. My specialty is color and also telling a story. Some of the work that Lamano Art does are calligraphy pieces, wedding invitations, sign work, and sculptures like fairy doors. I'm open to working with anyone on any idea. Please feel free to contact me at your convenience, and I look so forward to talking to you. Thank you.
Well, I am so enjoying this conversation. Tell us, please, a little bit about what you have experienced and how you are helping veterans and people who are first responders move into this space of life after the military or after being a civil servant.
Yeah. Along with Achieve Systems, I'm involved in a lot of different groups. I concentrate on veterans groups, trying to reach out to, uh, as I refer to them, the brothers and sisters that first off may have been in the Marine Corps, but all branches. A couple of years ago, I was involved in a group, and there it was kind of like yellow pages for Facebook. You could put your web page and a tagline, but that was it. There was no other, you know, advertising. And there was two gentlemen that it may have been the same guy. They were different addresses. They posted 5 times a day. And at the end of their post, one was an air duct cleaner, one was a car detailer. They both said, if we don't book appointments in the next couple of days, we're going out of business. And I go, my God, why would I do business with you? You're not going to be there. And that's when I approached the CEO of Achieve Systems, Rob Raymond, and said, Rob, we have so many outstanding resources. Hardly anybody does the same thing. We need to find a way that we can help veterans understand and connect with people that can actually help them thrive and survive. And so that's when we put the Veterans Achieve Business Systems group together. And we have cybersecurity people. I just talked to a gentleman before I was talking to you that he has a nonprofit that works with veterans to train them how to get a job. We have Army Ranger Colonel that is on the high end of the echelon. When you're making $500,000, he'll 10 times what you're doing. We have a Green Beret Colonel. We have a Navy SEAL commander, all teaching different things. And that from the person that is trying to make a few extra bucks to work out of their home because childcare is so expensive,
Right.
to the corporate entity that's making $300 or $400 million a year. And it's very interesting to me that we're able to all get together just like we were on base walking past somebody.
Yes. What has been part of your process to help people transition from a very rigid way, a very needed way of military first responders into a place where they get to make so many more decisions on their own? How have you helped people do that?
Well, everybody's different. And taking the time to get on and get to know somebody, if somebody doesn't want to do either a meeting in person with me,
Mhm.
Zoom, is close to the next best thing. I don't get to drink their coffee if I'm in their office, but um, I get, I'm pretty direct in that, and it's not about a handout,
Mm.
about a hand up. Um, when I was in the photo business, we had sponsored big name photographers to do a show with a dealer, and it was about selling products.
Yeah.
And some of the dealers wanted to just fill the seats up. I said, no, you got to charge them something. I said, if they buy something, you can give them that money back.
Right.
If they don't pay for that seat, they have no reason to show up.
Mhm.
And showing up is a big part of my process.
Mhm. I so appreciate that you do show up. I also appreciate this concept that you learned so young about being knocked down. You're going to say this so much better than I am, but being knocked down 7 times and getting up 8 times. Tell us a little bit about where that came from because you have used that at really different points in your life. And when we were talking about that, it really helped me to see that, yes, there is this space that we give ourselves a little bit of space to be able to get back up. And sometimes it is grabbing someone else's hand and having them help us get back up. But where did that saying come from?
It's actually sitting on my wall here next to my desk. In eighth grade, my mom was not a rich woman. She was an educated woman, and that she was a high school counselor, but she was raising two kids. My grandmother lived there. My grandmother didn't really give money for living there. She got paid for, babysitting and cleaning the house. Um, my mom gave me this plaque that's sitting on my wall here for my eighth grade birthday. And it's funny. I laugh at myself, and I do that a lot. I said, "This is what I'm getting for my birthday: a plaque." and that, but it has become one of the most important things in my entire life. And I look at it. I just looked at it now. I can look at it. Decoupage was all the fad back
Yes.
in the '60s and '70s, and
Yes.
she cut the paper and she burnt the wood of the that she put it on and put the glue stuff on it, the decoupage stuff on it. But I look at that and it is such an insight to life.
Mhm.
We're all going to have struggles. If we let the struggles get the best of us, then they will. Uh, One of my prouder dad moments when my daughter was young, I would teach her this lesson about not falling down. And we'd be play fighting around the house, and she'd fall to the ground, and I'd tap her with my foot. And she goes, Dad, stop kicking me. I said, no, you never fall down.
Mm.
You get up and fight, or you get up and you run away, but you never lay there. So you fast forward, she's about 21. She had gone to the local Coors Field
Mhm.
baseball game. And when they're on their way back to the car, two cars of gangbangers jumped up and jumped them, beat the heck out of the boys. She kicked the guy that was trying to get her purse and ran away and got the police. And she called me and told me the story. All I could remember, Dad, is you said, I can't fall down. I can fight or I can run away. I said, I did something right as a father.
And it came full circle where she came back to tell you what you had done, which is just such a powerful thing.
Not that she would admit that I did many things right.
Wow. And I trust that everybody that was hurt on that day has healed well.
Oh yes,
Um,
that's been about 20 years now, but uh, it kind of reinforces, and I think that's what life does. We talk about, okay, Mom gave me the plaque, and Mom literally, when I was getting picked on and crying on the front porch, locked the front door so I couldn't come in until I stood up for myself. And and years later, I brought that up to my mother, and she said, "Well, the back door was unlocked." I said, "I didn't know the back door was unlocked. I had to go fight the guy."
yeah.
But I laugh at life, and I think that's a real good thing for all of us.
Mm,
We all do goofy stuff. Not everybody's going to agree with what we do,
mm,
but this is who I am. Take me or leave me. And when it takes involves the part of getting involved with me, know that I'm going to be honest and sincere. If
yes.
we can do something for you, you have to participate.
Mhm.
I'm sincere about it. If there's nothing I can do, buddy, you got to do this on your own. I can't help you.
I really appreciate that space of saying, you're an adult, you have agency. I'm not going to spoon feed you forever. I'm happy to share with you, but I need to see that there are results in the seeds that I'm planting. And if you do this work that I'm asking you to do, I will continue to work with you. I will continue to be here with you. But that space of just appreciating that adults do have decisions, they have choices to make, and they can choose to move forward. And some people sit with information for a really long time until they feel that they have enough, whatever it happens to be, other people's support, opinions from others, timing, whatever it is, before they choose to move forward. And you are a person of action. And that's such a powerful piece.
I there's so many things, and any one of us can review the life lessons, as I referred to them. For me, the man moments, but the adult moments. Um, as a young kid, being a salesman, I had one customer that was, you can only call him a jerk. I'd come in, he had abused me. I had scheduled appointments. He wouldn't show up for a couple hours. There was one time I was looking at the pictures on his wall, and he came in and said, "Just sit there and wait for me. Don't be standing up here and doing it." I was 30 years old. I didn't know. I went to one of my mentors, and he goes, "Mac, you were a Marine. Are you afraid of this guy?" I said, "Well, no." He says, "Do you think he's going to shoot you and throw you bloody in the street?" I said, "No." He says, "Then tell him you're not putting up with that." And what he had me do was literally close that guy's dealership and open up the guy next door. Uh,
Mm.
so, but yeah, that's part of how do we stand up. I mean, you have to be respectful, obviously,
Yes.
but we don't have to take abuse.
Mm.
And we're all human beings, and I should get the same respect as the local politician.
What advice would you give, Mac, to somebody who is considering in that space trying to decide if they should re up or if they should move into civilian life? As they are processing that, what advice would you share with that person?
That's an individual thing too. Some people stay in because they don't think they have any other choices.
Mm.
And one of the things that I'm doing now is I'm trying to give those people choices. I mean, the perfect person is the one that has stayed in for 20 years and he's between 18 and 22, depending on whether he went to college before he went in the military, he or she, because there's a lot more ladies doing it. So they're 38 to 42 years old. They have half a pension for whatever their rank was.
Right.
What are you going to do? Sit on the couch forever? Not half a pension's not enough for life,
Right.
and we
Ah,
don't know what life is going to offer in 20 years.
true.
So getting them involved in something that they can do, and what most of the so-called studies say is more people transitioning want to go into their own enterprise,
Mhm.
not go work for somebody else because they had to work for somebody. It goes back to what I was talking about, the goofballs that we have to listen to
Yeah.
when we're in the military. So a lot more guys and gals are feeling the strength. My son kind of went through this, much better Marine than me.
Mm.
But when he got out, he stayed at home because he and his wife had another baby. He wasn't around for the first two kids. He was always on deployment. He did three in Afghanistan, or three in Iraq, one in Afghanistan.
Mm.
So he stayed home as a stay home daddy, house husband, whatever you want to call it. And he came back and he said to me when the baby was getting ready to go to school last summer, he goes, "What do I do?"
Mm.
I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, I know my money's not enough, but I don't have a clue." I said, "Well, you can go become a cop or you can be a fireman." I said, "But whatever you do where you're getting a job, you have to answer to them. You you won't do that real well because you've complained about your sergeant major ever since you got out of the Marine Corps." Um, I said, "You can start your own business. You'll work harder.
Mhm.
Still get to take the trash out, and you'll be doing emails at midnight. But you can also show up at Lucy's 2 o'clock
Mhm.
recital
That's
as,
right.
as one of the only dads in the audience." And so it's a perception in that, do you want to work harder but have control? Or do you want to have punching in at 8 o'clock, coming home at 6 o'clock,
Mhm.
and having to show up no matter what's going on?
Yeah. So, what did he choose, or will you share that?
He's back in school, and
Oh, retooling.
he's going to follow more of his mother's steps about becoming a history teacher.
I love that.
That was the last time I talked to him. That's what he was doing.
Yes, yes. Retooling for the next chapter. And whether he chooses to be in the classroom or not, or teach or not, that's going to open new doors, new contacts for him. And school can give enough structure so that somebody can feel like they have things that they are supposed to be doing. And that can feel really, really good. As Leela Veronica says, when we do what we say we're going to do, it builds us up, right?
I love Leila. She is such a ball of energy, in that although she always gets me hyped up for her classes, and that's okay. I was going, "Oh, Mac, you can't join. It's for women." And I said, "In today's world, I'm allowed to identify as a woman." But you got to have fun with life, and
Yes.
she is really something very special.
She is, and I really appreciate the wisdom that she brings and that she shares so freely, whether she's at Achieve speaking at the conference or she's working with other people in small groups or one individually. There's just something very special about how she listens and then what she chooses to share as a result of that, because she's like you, is always listening first before putting together a prescription or a suggestion of what people can do next in that space. You gave really great advice for somebody who's considering should they stay in, should they
Oh,
come be a civilian. Go ahead.
uh, again, that individual, and I kind of digressed. The military offers a lot. Uh, Without getting into politics, there were changes in what was happening, and but the continuing education, continuing to serve. The issue is that does that become part of your education process and you're going to do something, or is that all you're going to do 20 years, 30 years, if somebody wants to keep you around that long? Um, but the benefits, uh, the brotherhood, which, you know, we all see the brotherhoods, the community, the girls' night out. We all want that.
Mhm.
So it can be very difficult after living with that for 10, 20, 30 years and then not having it. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we try to guide people on is the transition from a life of service to um, civilian status. And it can be difficult
Mhm.
depending on what went on. Were you in the war? Did you see death and dying? Did you have good friends that you lost? That can be very challenging. And there's a psychological part of it that we have to grasp.
Mm.
And how do we build a new group? It's like being transferred to a new base on the other side of the world. You
Right.
have to make new friends. Maybe you bump into somebody that you know, and that, but even if you don't know them personally,
Mhm.
it's like you and I, we talked and we got onto a rapport of almost like we knew each other much longer.
Right. Growing up in the Democratic Republic of Congo, we had such tight knit groups. And even though people would come from different places in the world and come be part of that group, there was this we lived through X together, whatever that happened to be, or we were at this station together. And I remember coming to the States because I had graduated from high school and it was the thing to do to go to college. And so, in that space of trying to find a group of people that had at least been overseas, and I didn't realize that at the time that that was one of the things that I was looking for. Right, was people who had experiences other than, and maybe even long vacations. That would have worked for me as well. But for me, that was such a difficult transition of being in a place that was 4 degrees south of the equator. So we had almost 12 days of sunlight every day,
Yeah.
and clear skies frequently at night. Uh, and then moving to where I needed to have multiple jackets and, for all the different weather and stuff, living in Indianapolis for that year, going to Butler University. And for that semester before I transitioned, then changed, went to transferred to Southern California because I had friends I'd graduated with or who graduated a year ahead of me who were there. So again, that space of community. So I guess what I'm sharing also is for people who have chosen to leave for whatever reason, whatever group that they have been in, keep looking for that group where you feel like you belong, where it feels like at least you have some level of connection. And sometimes that means moving again, relocating. Sometimes it means just going to lots of different groups and trying to figure out if there are people in the side of that group that you connect in with. I know that you talk about Achieve. That's one place that people do come together and for so many different reasons are able to connect, having very different backgrounds, having very different businesses, and yet having a very strong common bond about what brings them together.
It is. And, when you want to meet people, maybe you go to, the Wings place and watch football together. But do you really want to go to a bar and meet somebody and bring that person that's at that bar on that stool every night and bring them home to introduce them into your life? I don't. Uh, I like. It doesn't mean that I want all these people to move next door and become my neighbors, but I
Right.
love the fact that I can pick up. It's one of the things in our world that is so special.
Mm.
We have communication availability. I had uh, a message last night from a girl that was a couple years older than me. I think I had a crush on her in high school, but I haven't talked to her. She was the president or something of Gallo Wines, and
Mm.
and she
Huh.
just reached out because she had seen a picture of me, And I wrote back, I haven't talked to you in so long, but staying in touch with community
Mm,
is a two-way street also.
it is.
And that I used to find, because everybody saw me traveling, I'd go out and visit people in California, and they never came and visited me in
Right.
New Mexico and Colorado.
Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Secretary, so if the critics of
It
these tariffs
sounds like that there's something else maybe.
consumers,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of
Oh,
these
something about consumers. And
Something came on. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I apologize.
that's completely fine. Completely fine. Mac, I'm noticing this medal that you are wearing. Tell us about it.
Uh, the top one
Yes.
is an American flag and a Marine Corps flag.
Yes.
Uh, I've been a conservative for a long time. That I'm a loyal member of the Ronald Reagan Association, and then the lower one is "We the People."
Mm,
Um, to me, it doesn't matter if you're libertarian, Democratic, or Republican, as long as you're for the country and you want to do what's best for the country.
yes. Yes.
I'm not bashful about that.
That's completely fine. I love that you know what you believe and
Mhm.
that you can speak about it so easily. Um, if you're going to give advice to somebody who had already made the decision to leave the service behind, to leave that area, and that they were going to move into the space of the big unknown, they'd already made that commitment to turn a different direction and begin working that different direction. And they were finding community a little bit difficult to create, to find. What advice would you give them about finding that? I really appreciate what you said about, the bar stool and not necessarily bringing that person into the closest part of your life. Um,
Well, I, we have to be internally brave walking into a room. I was the guy that I got to travel internationally a lot, and I remember being in Seoul, Korea, and walking down the back alleys and finding the shoe shine stand in the back alley, and I actually have a picture on my wall, and I'm much bigger than the normal South Korean man, and they're all gathered around me. They loved looking at my snakeskin cowboy boots, and my foot was twice as big as their foot. But people said, "Aren't you afraid?" I said, "No, I'm not. I just I want to get in. Um, in my street ministry days, I used to say I walk amongst the sinners so I can lead them to the path. Sometimes they're leading me to the path. So,
True.
but I try not to be afraid of light. I've met people, and I don't try to include them in my life for a long time. They're so afraid of living,
Yeah.
and it really is such a gift.
Mhm.
And I try to do it every month. And Gail, my late wife, she still holds most of the power bodybuilding records here in Colorado. Her
Yes.
name's on rock climbing trails all over the world, mountain climbing stuff. And she taught me that. She made me a much better man.
Mm,
Uh, but she taught me about living every day. And that, I guess, whether we're talking about veterans coming in or
mhm,
anybody, every moment is precious.
mm.
Live it to its fullest. And sometimes that means you have to get outside your own box, not to be too trendy with the talk, but you have
Yeah.
to do something that's a little uncomfortable.
Mm. We recently chose to spend some time in Sedona, Arizona, and I had not been rock climbing. And we're not talking, hitting ropes and that kind of thing. We're just talking about massive boulders and trying to figure out how to get up and some of those pieces. And I came away from that experience, one, it being one that I hadn't done in this country ever, had done some of that in Africa, but that was decades ago, right? And then, so trying something that was new for me in this space of life, but also that space of being willing to try something that I wasn't sure I was going to be good at. And I think that being curious continues to be something that for me allows me the space to have internal conversations about what it could look like. But it also gives me opportunity to know that as I'm trying something, it may not turn out. Just because I have the recipe, for Julia Child's whatever, and hers always came out, doesn't mean that when I use that same recipe, that mine is going to come out. And that's okay. That space again of the fall down 7 times, get up 8. There's always that space to be able to get up afterwards if we give ourselves permission to do that. And we don't need anyone else's permission to get up. That becomes an internal piece of I am choosing to get up. I hear that there are people around me who don't want me to succeed. I am choosing to move forward. And you may feel that energetically. You may actually have people say, you can't do that. And yet, if you know that you're going to still put one foot in front of the other, go for it. Go try it, and see what's on the other side of that. Courage building.
And Sedona brings that out in you. I grew up in Phoenix. I used to go up to the Slide Rock in Sedona. Yeah. In fact, I was just there during the holidays driving home. I had a friend with me, and I had to go deal with my aunt's passing. Mm-hmm. And we chose to come back through Sedona on the way home. And I love it. I had my first anniversary there when I was a kid, right on Oak Creek, and I know it very well.
Yes. So we wanted to go climb. We had this list of places. We had done Devil's Bridge, and although it had been snow and icy, I didn't go out on the bridge. It was my second time to be there. I was committed this year to go to it. And then the amount of ice on it, I just thought, I'm going to choose to come back in the summertime, in the fall when we don't have ice. I wasn't expecting that. Daughter went out on it again, have great photographs of her there. Lovely, lovely experience meeting people from all over the world. I wasn't expecting that in January in Sedona. I just kind of thought that it would be primarily people who were here, going. And that was not the case. There were lots and lots of languages being spoken as people were hiking. So on this particular day, just my husband and myself, we decided that we wanted to do a Cathedral Rock. And so we had parked across the way. We chose to walk on over because the trolley tram was doing the thing. And we just thought it'll be faster for us to go ahead and walk. And actually the person driving the trolley had said, if you choose to walk, it'll be faster than going back into town for them to pick up more people to come back. So we do that. And so we get there at the base, and I've been taking Leela Veronica's class. Sorry that you can't come to it, Mac, but I've been enjoying this class and just learning so much more about the muscles in the body and how they move and being much more flexible. This is after a good 5 years, solid years of doing yoga and learning so much there as well. And so I feel like I am ready for this challenge. And I'm doing this in hiking boots. And for some reason, I'm just not processing how to move my body forward and lean into the rock. I don't know why. I'm so stuck on needing to move my shoulders back and have the curve in the lower back, right? So we get up, scramble up to several different rocks. We get to the place where you have to go up the crevasse to kind of push to be able to go all the way up. And at this point, my hands are wet. I'm like, I don't know that I can do this. There's not a place to hold on to, which is what I had also recognized at Devil's Bridge. It's the self-selecting opt-out, right? If you don't think that you can do it, you're not going to do it because there aren't ropes around. There's nothing that's going to catch you. It's you're going in. And so when we finished that, didn't get all the way to the top, realized that there were some things that we needed to strengthen on and come back next time to be able to do that. Ended up going on the walk around and ended up at the Oak Creek River and hadn't seen it on this particular trip. And that the magic of that, Mac, of being on a trail, being disappointed that I didn't do what I thought I was going to be able to do, and then coming to this place and hearing the rush of the river in the wintertime, full, churning, dancing. it was just so vibrant to be there. And I had to go over and put my hands in it. Such a beautiful, beautiful experience. I'm so glad that one thing didn't work out so that the other thing opened up into this magical experience.
Well, in being able to embrace the difference at that moment, recognizing that kind of goes back to your comment earlier about how do we make choices. Sometimes you just have to embrace it. Maybe you get to think about the process, but
Right.
maybe the opportunity is make up your mind. Are you turning left or right?
Yes. And along the way, because the first map we were able to take pictures of, we could see it clearly. And I had learned this years ago. If you get a map, take a picture of it. Just, you may not use it, that's okay. Have it in case you need it. So then we go along and we keep following the trail and we come across maps that have been damaged. And so you really can't tell anything on it. So we're asking people around us, and it's their first day also on the trail. Finally get to the end of the trail, ask somebody who's been walking their dog. The dog was the clue that possibly they were locals. And they were like, if you take this road out, you're walking for miles because this doesn't go where you think it's going to go. All right, let's take the trail back because we know that this trail is going to work, right? And so, again, just the beauty of taking in the information around, being curious, not sure how it's going to work out, and yet choosing to move forward. And it was one of the best hike days. And then the next day to go a whole different direction and find what became our very favorite hike of all, for all the years that we've been in Sedona, all the different hikes that we've done. Here we are, 16, 15 years of different points going and finding yet this other trail that turned out to be so, so special. Truly wonderful.
And it's fun when we get to do things repetitively. Yeah, as you're talking about with Sedona. Um, I've done that with Sedona. And if you're driving up from Phoenix and seeing all the difference from Phoenix to Sedona, it's amazing.
It is.
Yellowstone is that way for me.
Hmm.
And I did 28 years in a row where I worked with a college out of Cody and I teach them photography. And we do one day at the college, 2 days in the park. The college actually had cabins and we'd stay overnight in
Perfect.
Yellowstone. And a friend of mine who's a influencer,
Mhm.
Nikon sponsors her, a trailer company sponsors her,
Beautiful.
up in Yellowstone. And it was her first time, and she took a picture of a waterfall and sent it to me. I said, "Oh yeah, Crawfish Falls." She goes, "How do you know that?" I said, "Well, you park up on top, you walk down to the left, you go to the bottom, and that shot you took from the bottom." She goes, "How do you know that?" I said, "Because I've been there 20 some times."
Right.
uh, but it's funny, and there's places that you can talk to about Sedona, and if people are going to put that on their mind block, next time they go there, they're going to go to the Cathedral Trail, or I mentioned Slide Rock. Now,
Exactly.
when I was a kid, Slide Rock was free, but now it's a national or a state park, and you have to pay $5 to get in.
Yes. Yes. And also with the parking now, even for us, that we chose to get the week-long pass. It was cheaper than buying the daily pass, and we were there for more than 1 week, and so we bought more than one of those. And that also just felt really good to me, that we were supporting. It was easy for us, right, to be able to support the park at that level. It was an easy thing to do, and I was just so grateful for the fact that we have such access to the parks. Have not yet been to Yellowstone. It's definitely on my list of places that I want to go for more than a day, right? I want
Uh,
to spend time.
do it in a day. And
Yeah.
you almost can't drive it in a day without stopping, but
Right. Right.
it's a multi-day thing. If you want to find the beaver pond, and of course all the tourist traps like Old Faithful, but there's so much more. There's so much
Yes.
more.
Yes. Wow. Mac, I have so appreciated your time in this conversation. Are there things that you would like to reiterate for our audience?
I I think the biggest thing is I would love to make a connection with anybody watching your show, and
Yes.
that and have a 15 or a 30-minute get to know you. We don't know what value we're going to offer to each other. And we're in this very cool world that I was talking to a guy in Mexico City last week. He's from the UK. He went down there before COVID, got stranded in Mexico, met a girl, got married, and now he lives in Mexico. And you first see it. Well, he's from Mexico, and I'm expecting this Hispanic accent and this British accent. An hour later, I'm talking to a guy in Malaysia who was born in the Ukraine, lived in Germany, and now he lives in Malaysia. And I said, "Who are you hiding from?" But
It's good.
we're in a wonderful world. Let's have fun with it. See if
Yes.
we're good for any other part of somebody else.
So appreciate that. Thank you so much, Mac.
Thank you. I appreciate everything.
And to our audience, we are just so grateful that you are here listening to the end. Take Mac up on his offer. You'll find the information in the link below. Sign up for some time to see if there is a connection there, because you don't know how you can help each other unless you take that next step. And for you, we just say, take good care of you. Until next time.